Now I will be discussing on the lesson 3, plan the project. So plan the project, we have scope of the project. This part is about focusing on only scope of the project. So what is project scope? Project scope is the feature, the functions and works that characterize the delivery of product, service and or result. For example, if we have a project of building construction of a training center, and we have a training components providing training for 1,000 officers, and we have a project of making a training modules for 4 months training. So we have three components here. In together, this is a one project, big project. So if we can complete all the features, functions, and works like training, making module, and building construction, this means it's a project is done. So project scope is the feature, function, works that characterize the delivery of a product, service, or result. But then what is product scope? The function and features that characterize a product or a service. If we take an example of a building is a product, so making all the floors of the building, all the paint works, all the windows and doors, so each of the features of the building made the whole building, then we call is a product scope. So product scope is the functions and features that characterize a product or a service. Then what is the project scope of the Swap Lifestyle Center? Swap Lifestyle Center is an example that is to complete a construction project and also engage a sales and marketing project to fill it with tenants over time. So there are two parts. One is focusing on construction of project, another is focusing on the sales and marketing. So if we can complete both the part of this project, that means we are under the scope of project scope. On the other hand, the product scope is the completed revitalization of Oasis town with bespoke customized spaces for commercial and community tenants. If we can complete all the parts of commercial and community tenants of a building, that means its product scope is covered. So the scope of the construction project is fixed. It's based on the finalized, pre-planned. On the other hand, the scope of the sales and marketing project is flexible. It's flexible. It can be changed. So in a predictive approach, product owner, there is no product owner. No need to decide for product scope. On the other hand, in adaptive approach, product owner decide product scope in each iteration. In each iteration, the product owner actually decides product scope. And product owner or agile coach, team focused, should not be the same person. In agile, there is no project manager. If there is project manager, then you should understand that it's a hybrid project. Now, some concepts I will be discussing. One is adaptability and resilience in planning. Rolling wave planning, a form of progressive elaboration applied to work packages, planning packages, and release planning. So, in each iteration, it will be progressive elaboration. So, there will be many packages. One package complete, then next package complete, then next package, and each of the package, for the each of the package there will be a planning. So So we are calling it rolling wave planning. This is in predictive approach. But for adaptive approach, rolling can be for the incremental and progressive can be for the iterative. So in each iteration, there will be a progression, growth, or improvement. For each incremental delivery, there will be rolling wave planning. So it's a mixed. Another concept is MVP. What is this? Minimum viable product. For example, someone asked you to make a software. So he has given some clue. So at the beginning, you will make just the basic software, which doesn't have all the features it needs. So this is minimum viable product to show some person that this will look like this one. Then the receiver, the customer will give feedback what he requires. Then you can add all the features you need. So what is MBI? Minimum business increment. So if you have a product, then you are adding something new value, then it will be minimum business increment. MVP, if you add some value with the minimum viable product, then it will be minimum marketable product. So minimum marketable product is when you can sell something to the customer. So you have added some value with the minimum viable product so that customer is ready to buy it for it at least minimum features. That's why it's called minimum marketable product. And what is product roadmap? Product roadmap is a envision, plans. It's a big picture that shows, displays that you have the strategy from the beginning to the end, and you are going to add that values, and you will be delivering a value-based product. And actually, product roadmap is leading with the overarching product vision and uses progress elaboration to refine vision. So whatever the vision of the project or product, you are actually adding them one by one. You have a plan, roadmap. So it provides a short-term and long-term visualization. So product roadmap is a kind of visualization so that the stakeholders can understand that what you are going to do, from where you are starting, and how in each step it will going to adding the values to the final product. And what is milestone? It's a time-based tracking. So you have a milestone that you will do it this part by this time. You will do this achievement by this time. So this kind of milestone you have time-based tracking. So it can be markers, prompts, or created by normally project manager or customers. It can be mandatory or it can be optional. Now scope planning. So we will be discussing the project manager role. So project manager, in the predictive approach, project manager actually facilitates the collect requirement process. Project manager facilitates the documents requirements. Project manager facilitates the scope statement, work breakdown structure, develop schedule, budget, resources, and quality plans to deliver the requirements. In the adaptive approach, actually, the product owner creates and refines release backlogs for iteration. For each iteration, product owner actually read the stories and explain them and make the backlog, and based on they actually release the backlog. So product owner creates and refine release backlog for iteration planning meeting. Explain each prioritized user story in detail to the team. So then team actually estimate the effort required and creates the iteration baseline, selecting stories to meet the expected velocity of the iteration. places user stories from product backlog into release backlog to support identified features and functions. So what kind of feature and functions actually required? It is decided by the product owner. So when product owner giving the release backlog and user story in detail, then teamwork actually go for implementing it, go for executing it. So they actually decide that schedules and one by one, the serial maintenance, the effort, the sequence and prioritize the work uh, to make the product to the ultimate situation. So team actually estimates the effort that is required and creates the iteration baseline. For each iteration, they actually put their full effort. They express and they actually through their actions they implement the whole project. So the three part is different. Product manager it's in predictive approach, product owner in the adaptive approach, and team also in the adaptive approach. So what is requirement? You know your project, what you are going to achieve. You also know you have many activities to perform. So for that activity performance, you have to have some requirements. So what are they? A requirement is one single measurable statement of a condition or capability. It tells how a product, service, or result satisfies a business need. So if you want a feature in a soap, for example, you want new fragrance in the soap. So what will be the requirement? Requirement will be that you have to collect the fragrance. You have to collect the fragrance colors. You have to select the what kind of fragrance you are going to introduce or adding. So then it will add the value. It will be business need because customer will be lacking it because they have expressed their requirement. So a requirement is one single measurable statement of a condition or capability. It tells how a product or service or result satisfy a business need. And requirements must be unambiguous. It should be clear crystal, measurable and testable. Requirement should be traceable. It should be complete and consistent. And it must be acceptable by the key stakeholders. The requirements should be in the simple format and elaborated format. Requirements traceability metrics can be made. So project manager or team lead should make, the product owner should make a requirement traceability matrix. That means there will be a table with ID, description, objectives, work breakdown structure, design, development, test case. So with these all columns, a product owner or product manager should make a requirement traceability matrix RTM. So from this RTM, you can understand what are the requirements you need for each of the activity. And you have to plan the track and report it. So you have to prepare the configuration management activities, required authorization levels for change approval. If you need to change something, so you have to know required authorization level for change approval, prioritization criteria process, product matrices and accompanying rationale, traceability structure, including requirement attributes. So you have to prepare everything for the requirement list. What are the types of requirements? For the project, it can be actions, process, condition, project must meet. For the product, the requirements will be functional features, environment. For the quality, it can be organization need, what they desire, what quality they desire. And for the stakeholders and transitions, who are the stakeholders, what would be the transition in the project implementation. So you have to prepare these requirements, that how much gap you need, what will be the deadline, everything. So how we can prepare the requirement process? We have some processes, we have some tools and techniques by which we can prepare the requirements. So what are the requirements needed? It will be decided by the nominal group technique. What is this? Nominal group technique is actually making a group activity where you are asking one question. For example, if you take an example of that, we are going to set up a waste management plan in Dhaka Hatirjil area. So there will be different opinion from different people. So if we ask openly everyone will tell, so which one I should take. Rather, I am asking the question, so each one is writing their case in a note, and they come to the podium and they are expressing their logic, why they are selecting this project and what is their case, what is their logic. So each one is explaining to others, others are understanding it. So they are digesting each of the options with their merits and demerits. After that, when everything is finished, then put we should put all the options in the board. Then we can make a vote which one you like most. Because by this time everyone knows all the options, all the logics, merits and demerits of the each of the proposals. Now among all the people, now we can make a vote. So now people can understand whether his own proposal is better or others one, and if others one, which one. So based on this voting system, we can select one options, or we can mix two or three together. So that's called nominal group techniques. And what is multi-criteria decision making? Actually, you can ask questions mentioning many options, many issues like risk level, uncertainty, valuation. So you are going to take a options or proposal, but first ask people questions about the risk level. Give them to provide the metrics, and give them another metrics is on uncertainty, and the another one is valuation. So risk level, uncertainty, valuation. These three should be based on the metrics. People, someone will emphasize on risk level, someone will emphasize on uncertainty, someone will focus on valuation. So combining all the multi criteria, covering all the criteria, that means multi criteria. When you make a matrix based on the opinions of the stakeholders to find the requirements, that calls multi criteria decision making analysis. You can have expert judgment what requirements you need. You can use nominal group techniques, observation, facilitation to find the interpersonal skills, which team is better, which person is better for what. So in this case, you can use nominal group technique, observation, facilitation. And how you can gather data? You can gather data by brainstorming for a specific time, by interviews, through focus group. What is focus group? When homogeneous group people discuss something and express their opinions, it's called focus group. Questionnaire and survey, benchmarking. By this, actually, you can collect data for the requirements, and also you can do the data analysis like document analysis, alternative analysis, product analysis if deliverable is a product. And also you can do a decision making techniques by voting, by multi-criteria decision analysis, as I have mentioned above. And you can also express through the data representation by mind mapping, affinity diagram. Affinity diagram is putting one issue in one row. So you have mapping separate columns. So it's a affinity diagram, context or case diagram. If you explain something context, for example, you are going to establish a route in a area. So you are asking, you are watching this project from the government perspective, you are evaluating it from the community perspective, if you are evaluating this project from the environmentalist perspective. So one issue you are actually watching from diverse perspective, diverse context from different community groups, different stakeholder groups, and that's called context diagram. So what is benchmarking? Benchmarking is the comparison of actual or planned products, process, or practices to those of comparable organization to identify the best practice, generate ideas for improvement. So you have a system, but you want a better system. So compare with other system which is available in the industry. So benchmarking is actually comparing with the better examples, better prototypes. So we have scope planning, requirement prioritization. So there are many requirements. There are many requirements. You have to prioritize them. Which one is more necessary? Which one is less necessary? Which one will be coming first and which one will be coming later? So you have to prioritize your requirements. How can you do that? One process or one technique is Moscow analysis. What is Moscow? You see here, M means must have. The requirements that must have, it's M. The requirement that should have, it's S. The requirement could have, it's C. The requirement won't have, W. That's why we call Moscow analysis. So you have a requirement matrix, list of requirements. So each of the requirement you have to ask this question: Is it must have? Is it should have? Or is it could have? Or is it won't have? Based on this analysis, you can find which one is emergency, which one is less necessary. So you can prioritize all the requirements. Also, you can check all the requirements by asking or by watching their influence. Is it delighters or exciters? Is it satisfiers or it is dissatisfiers or it is indifferent? So which requirements you are going to take, which one that satisfies more? Because we need the satisfaction of customer. We need to add the value. So that the requirements which actually mostly satisfy, we will select that one. Then you can have paired comparison. You have two options, which is better. You have A and B, A better or B better. So by comparing two, you can pick one requirements. This is another way. And last one is 100 point marking. So you are giving the options and asking the stakeholders to give mark 100 marks. So whichever gets more than 80 marks, 80% number, then you will be selecting it. So you can make a matrix with the 100 points for each of the requirement. Then you can select which one is mostly important. So by this way, there are four steps I have told you. That one is Moscow analysis, and there is Kano model. Third one is peer comparison. Last one is 100-point methods, ECA. So by this way, we can actually find the appropriate and exact requirements that should be prioritized. Now the scope management plan. For deciding the scope, for fixing the scope, you must have a management plan, a scope management plan. This is a component of the project or program management plan that describes how the scope will be defined, how the scope will be developed, how the scope will be monitored, and how it will be controlled and validated. Actually, scope management plan review the scope activities for the project and how that work will be done. Scope management plan should include processes to prepare a project scope statement. It enables the creation of the work breakdown structure from the detailed project scope statement. It establishes how the scope baseline will be approved and maintained. Scope management plan also specifies how formal acceptance of the completed project deliverables will be obtained. And it can be the scope management plan can be formal or informal, broadly framed or highly detailed. So project scope statement includes scope description. There will be description of the project, then project and product acceptance criteria, any required deliverables, any out of scope items needed for clarification. Is there any constraints and assumptions that should be listed there? And what is scope planning? Scope planning is the tools and techniques for analysis, document analysis, alternative analysis, product analysis, expert judgment. We should have the scope planning. Now, product analysis method. Product breakdown. First, we need to break down the product. If you split the product and its requirements into components to achieve a clear understanding of work, that's called product breakdown. So we have a product like if we have a building. So fifth floor buildings, we can divide in fifth floor, one floor, two floor, third floor, like that. Then we can divide in electrical, mechanical, and civil work. You can break down like the, uh, for example, finishing work or the uh, windows and doors and the interior works. So in many ways you can break down your product. So that's called product breakdown. System engineering. It's kind of system approaches design, integration or management process or life cycle of complex system in a multidisciplinary way. So then system analysis. It actually studies a product or service to identify its goals or purpose that will this will deliver value to the stakeholder. So it creates system procedures to achieve them efficiently. To achieve the goals and purposes, we have to have system engineering and you have to analyze systematically. And then requirement analysis. You know the requirement list. Now identify them, validate them, and document, specify them in the project. What kind of specification required for the deliverables. And value engineering. We have a value for the business, value for the project. So how to optimize value in a structured manner, that's called value engineering. And then we should examine factors affecting the product or service cost in a systematic, interdisciplinary way towards success with the lowest cost and required quality and reliability standard. That's called value analysis. Now create the work breakdown structure. To create the work breakdown structure, you should actually follow the 100% rule. It includes every aspect should be included in the breakdown structure. Nothing extra, nothing missing. And WBS also include project and product components. It should use hierarchical structure, highest project, next deliverables, lowest work package. So you have to break down everything. A hierarchical documentation of the total scope of the work to be carried out by the project team to accomplish the project objectives and create the required deliverables. So when you break the work structure, that means in work breakdown structure, you know everything. You have to provide the sequential and hierarchical structure of each of the component of the work so that you can complete one by one and you will find the final product. So if you see this slide here, we have the project name here, top of WBS. Then you have control account, management control point. Then you have planning package, works needed further plan. And then you can break up it 1.1.1 work package, then 1.2.1 work package 2, So this way you can break up all the components of the work project. So how to decompose the work in the WBS? First steps to identify deliverables and the work tasks needed to accomplish them. So focus on the deliverables. Then structure and organize the WBS. Then decompose high-level WBS scope components into low-level components. So you have a big one, so you have to make small work package. Then develop and assign a unique identification code to each component from the code of account. You can put code number for each of the breakup of the work, and review the decomposition of work package and verify that they align with the project requirements. So all the decomposition you have to check one by one, so that they are whether they are in the hierarchical manner, whether they are in the sequential order, and whether they are covering actually what we actually require for the product making or project implementation. Sorry. So you have to make a WBS dictionary, work breakdown structure dictionary. It will provide the detailed deliverable, activity, and scheduling information about each component in the WBS. What are they? It includes WBS code identifier, description of work, assumption and constraint, responsible organization, schedule milestones, associated schedule activities, resource required to complete the work, cost estimation, quality requirements, acceptance criteria, and technical references, agreement information. These are the actually component of a WBS dictionary. Now, what is scope baseline? Approved version of a scope statement, WBS and its associated WBS dictionary that can be changed only using formal change control procedures. What is the scope baseline? So this one, the scope that is already approved by the authority. If you want to change something from this, you have to go through the change control board. This is the I'm talking about predictive approach. So it is used as a basis for comparison to actual results when you will be working in the future. So you can compare what is the actual value you have achieved and what was the basis. And component include project scope statement, WBS, work packages, planning packages, WBS dictionary, all the part of the actually scope baseline. So you have to have the transitional handovers, consider all stakeholders, schedules, risk, budget, and quality standards. These can be delivered throughout the project and not just at the end. So you have to ask some question like, will the work be new or an update in the business environment? How best to transition the product into a live environment? What about decommissioning or removing old system, process or materials? Did you ensure training and knowledge transfer are complete or satisfactory? So by asking this question, actually, you can cover the transition and handover issue. And scope planning in adaptive environment. For the adaptive environment, you have different process. So for the incremental or iterative development, you have to use the user stories that proposes an alternative way of viewing the requirement process. Here there is no list of requirements, but there is the stories. So product owner actually read the stories and explain it to identify the requirements. So in each iteration, you have to go through these stories and detailing of stories and to find the exact requirements. Planning also takes place at the stand-up meeting when team discuss detail of work in progress. In the stand-up meeting, when they discuss about the detail of the work in progress, you will find the requirements. Collaborative planning meetings that break scope into larger releases than iteration and sprints. So in the sprint meeting, in the stand-up meeting, actually you are breaking up the works, what features you need, what works you have to do for the next iteration. So you have to plan here. This is scope planning. And at the release planning or agile release planning, decide number of iterations or sprints needed to complete each release. Decide features content in the release. goal dates of each release. On the other hand, at iteration planning or sprint planning, they review the highest prioritized user stories or key outcomes, ask questions, agree on effort required to complete the user story in the current iteration, and determine the activities required to deliver iteration objectives. What is the backlog? This is a prioritized list of known scope of work. So you know the scope of work. So this is a prioritized list which will be coming fast or later. So information presented in the story form continually updated the product owner in collaboration with the teams. The product owner actually deals with the product backlog, the prioritized work of scope. So a product owner creates a product backlog and identifies and adds stories in the collaboration with the team and stakeholders. Work items describe desired product functionality through user stories. Mind it that product owner prepared the product backlog and the team only implement that one. They do not prepare the product backlog. And the product owner and the team collaborate to make the iteration sprint backlog. And they also make requirements of backlog, sprint backlog, and lean backlog. What is a story map? A story map organizes user stories into functional groups and within a narrative flow, the big picture of the product roadmap. So with many story map, you can understand what is the product roadmap. So the story map actually the breakup of the whole product roadmap. With all the story map, if you put together, you can find the product roadmap. So it's helpful for discovering and envisioning or prioritizing the product and a way ahead. So story map technique developed by Jeff Patton. What is epic? It's a large body of work that can be broken down into smaller pieces, features, and user stories. Epics can be take months to complete. So with all the features you did, with all the user story, you can make the epic. What is feature? It's a it's a small part of epic, a set of related requirements that allows the user to satisfy a business objective or need. So you are going to add a new small feature to a product. So that's the feature, new characteristics. So this is one requirement. So if you combine all the features, it will be epic. Product owner and team must discuss 10% of time for this feature. Scale adaptive framework can work better. And prioritize, refine the backlog. Continuously, the product owner will do the continual refinement done and they will prepare the iteration planning by the team. So product owner actually made the refinement of product backlog. And additional refinement can be done jointly by the team and product owner during the sprint and iteration. And it allows recognition and reprioritization of work to complete higher or priority items that deliver value fast. Split epics into user stories. So this is the part B, scope. Part B, scope, project scope. In this video, actually, we have covered the project scope planning management, the role of product owner, the teams, project manager, and how we can prepare the requirements, the requirement list, the requirement traceability metrics. These are the options. By this, we can understand what is the actual scope of the project. Thank you.